Welcome to another Soccer Down Here 1v1. Time to catch up with friend of the network, play-by-play voice of the Charleston Battery, Poppy Miller. And it's time, Poppy, to return to play when it comes to the USL Championship.
I am so excited. It's so good to be back with the P-Block. Looking forward to everybody getting back underway. Now full training ahead. So really looking forward to soccer being back. Great to see the NWSL back this past weekend, and now we can get ready for our season to kick off just around the corner.
All right. It is return to play, and what the USL Championship has done, it's not going to be a full schedule by what you and I and those who follow the USL Championship know. It's going to be truncated. It's geographic. And it's going to be get in quickly, and it's going to be a sprint to the end of the regular season to determine a champion.
It so is, and I think it's interesting. We've all been waiting to see what this season is going to look like. You know, we know what the MLS season is going to look like, but I think what's really unique to the USL is that every team is going to get the opportunity to play at home, which is really special. And then you look geographically, I know in regions to make it easier for travel-wise how the teams have been divided up, but the way it's fallen, there's some fantastic rivalries within each of those groups. And then a couple of changes as well, as we mentioned, the 5-sub rule. We've seen that come into play all over the world in the different leagues. So it'll be interesting to see how the teams manage with that. But the biggest thing is these games are going to come thick and fast. There's, you know, in Charleston, especially Atlanta, it's going to be hot. So I think that those 5 subs are really going to make an impact, not only tactically, but when you look at the fitness and you look at the, you know, what the players have been able to do up until this point. And it's important to note as well, some of these teams haven't even played yet this season, so we don't really know what to expect from some of the teams out there.
All right, I'm going to go through the West because I know we're going to focus on the East because that's where we make our bread and milk money. So out West, it is 4 groups, same as in the East. Group A, Portland Timbers 2, Reno 1868, Sacramento, and Tacoma. And I know that folks are kind of leaning towards Sacramento, even though we're all just kind of new in the sprint here. Group B, Los Dos, Vegas, who it looks like Frank Yallop is going to be the new head coach in Las Vegas, as Eric Winalda said on his Twitter account over the weekend. Orange County SC, Phoenix, and San Diego Loyal. I think Phoenix and San Diego, a lot of folks are going to be drawn to that. Group C, I think, is going to be the one that's the most fun. You've got Colorado Springs, El Paso, New Mexico United Real Monarchs. Group D, Austin, OKC, Rio Grande Valley, San Antonio FC, who put out their new jerseys on their social media, and those look pretty strong. And FC Tulsa. A and C play fellow group members 4 times. B and D play each other 3 times. Remaining games played against teams that will fall within a similar geographic region. Without getting into depth, when you look at the West, what do you see?
Well, I'm looking at Group C. I'm sure, like many other people, you've got the Rocky Mountain rivalry in there, and then El Paso and New Mexico. I think it's going to be a tight battle over there. Real Monarchs, the 2019 USL champions. But do they have the depth with Real Salt Lake being in Orlando? That's one of the biggest questions. But I think they've got some veteran leaders on the side, so it'll be interesting to see what they do. Jack Blake springs to mind. So, yes, I know they picked up a lot in their first match of the season, but like you said, it's so long ago now, you know, they'll be looking to turn the tide. It really does feel like a very fresh season, but it's just around the corner.
E, F, G, and H. This is where you are going to give your incredible in-depth opinions, and I'm just going to feed you. I'm going to be the point guard here for all this stuff. Group E, Lipa FC, the let me see if I remember what it is. It's the Louisville, Indianapolis Proximity Association Football Contest, if I remember correctly. Does that sound close?
That sounds fantastic. I don't think I can ever remember it, so I'm going with that.
When Indy 11 and Louisville FC play, Lou City play each other, it's Lipa FC, so that's they're in Group E along with St. Louis FC and Sporting KC2. That one's going to be a fun one.
It is, and for me, I'm looking at Indy 11 in this group. They picked up a win the first match of the season against Memphis. Last season they made it to the Eastern Conference Final. they just have so much depth all over the pitch, the likes of Neville Hackshaw. I think just having so much versatility with the personnel they have, and then Tyler Pasher as well, the one to watch, fantastic on the counter-attack. So speedy, very tricky to mark. They're just such a physical side, and for me, when you've got those players that are versatile, that can go all over the pitch, and you have that rotation in the squad, that's really what you're looking for. Like we mentioned, these games are going to come very quickly, so I think a lot of it is going to come down to, how many rotations can you make, and they have proved time and time again that they have that.
Group A.
Louisville as well.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, so for Louisville as well, I think, having Cameron Lancaster back in the mix, they're always a contender for the title race. 3 consecutive trips to the USL final. You can just never write them off. But what's interesting about them is, time and time again now, we've seen them in the season where they've had a spell where they just can't really get things to going. Seems to happen mid-season. They always seem to finish very strong, but when you've got this tournament-style format, you can't really afford for that to happen. So how will it play out this year with the dip in form that they've had in the past couple of years? And then for St. Louis, I always think they're a dark horse. They had a fantastic run in the Open Cup last season before losing to the eventual champions Atlanta United. And then after the Open Cup run, we saw them as well have a dip in their form. And I think, again, that shows just how many matches were coming up against them, playing 3 times a week. And that's, on some occasions, what we'll see in this one as well. A new coach for them, but some consistency as well remaining in the lineup. Russell Cicerone, 2 goals in the first match. He's off to a good start, so will he pick up where he left off? And then for Sporting KC, they're in a very, very tough group, but of course being that MLS affiliate, they've all got so much to play for, a very young squad, so they'll be rising to the occasion as the underdog.
I want to get into the twos sides in a collective in just a little bit, but Group F, Hartford and Pittsburgh, we haven't seen them play yet. New head coach in Hartford, so we'll get to see what those are like, and we know what Pittsburgh's pedigree is all about. And then you also get to add in Loudoun United, New York Red Bulls 2, the former Bethlehem Steel, Philadelphia Union 2, a lot of different points of view here that we can look at in Group A.
Definitely, and for me, I'm always looking forward to watching New York Red Bulls too. High energy, high pressing, very unpredictable at the best of times. So interested to see how they come out. We see players every season in and out of the squad with the rotation to the MLS team. Probably can expect more of the same this year, although it'll probably be more consistent with the tournament being in Orlando. For me, I'm looking to see what Ben Mines can do this year. He's looking for that breakout year, a homegrown signing, just 20 years old, and of course he has his sights set on the MLS contract, as a lot of the MLS affiliates do. And then for Pittsburgh, Todd Lilly, one of the best coaches in the USL, the Eastern Conference champions. They've not played a game yet, but they do have some key missing players from last year, Nico Brett being one of them. And this is a team that's always defensively sound. Last year we saw them really add the attack to their arsenal. Cam Canado to be the playmaker for them this year is probably, again, going to be the biggest question. If they can keep putting those goals in and making it happen at the other end of the pitch, then they're set for another fantastic season.
G and H are the remaining teams in the East, and it was a bit of an odd bird with both of these and how they were structured. In Group G, you've got Birmingham, Charlotte, Memphis, and North Carolina FC, and then we'll get into the specifics of Group H. And Group H was paired with Atlanta United 2, Charleston, Miami, and Tampa. But Group G, they used the umbrella, and it's Birmingham, Charlotte, Memphis, North Carolina FC.
Yes, so you have the 2 Carolina teams. There's big rivalry there between those two. For North Carolina, they seem to have got the better of Charlotte in the past couple of years. I think it's 4-0-1 against them. So can they keep that up? That'll be a huge question for them. And of course for Charlotte, they'll be really looking to turn the tide on that. Alex Kambach has been absolutely brilliant for North Carolina FC in the past 2 seasons. Comes up in big moments. Got a sturdy defensive line in front of him. And then Ben Spees at top. He'll be looking to, be a playmaker. For Charlotte, with Mike Jeffries, who struggled last season, only winning 9 matches, finishing the year with 38 points, but they did pick up a win already this season again, which feels like such a long time ago, and for them, the first time that they've won a season opener on the road. They've got Enzo Martinez on the side. He's always one to watch, really orchestrates the attack as well. Dane Kelly joining. He does what he does best, scoring. Already scored the winning goal against FKC before the break. So I'm looking at that matchup in particular between those two.
Cut those in half. You have two rivalry matchups: Birmingham, Memphis, North Carolina, Charlotte. Group H. Here's where you and I make our hay here, since we live it, breathe it, or are part of it every single day of the USL Championship. And it's one of the more intriguing groups. And there's a commonality. The trivia question, which I know you can answer in all of this: Atlanta United 2, Charleston Battery, Miami FC, Tampa Bay Rowdies, and one guy in particular's ties to 3 of the 4 teams.
Oh, and it's got to be Romario Williams. And how excited are we to see Romario Williams? You know, we know how much skill, how much power, how much pace and presence he has up top. And I think that it's been interesting to watch his career from Charleston. He's been on the fringes of MLS with Atlanta United, then they've moved to Columbus Crew. And I think sometimes it's both a blessing and a curse when you're so close to being into the MLS team and into the mix that you sometimes find yourself sitting on the bench and not picking up those regular minutes, which I think is what happened to him. And the occasions that we did see him play in the USL Championship, I mean, you just saw how much pace and power he has up top. I think it was against Charlotte Independence when he had a hat-trick, 2 goals in the first 2 minutes. So you just have to be so on your toes with him. And like you mentioned, 3 of the 4 clubs just know how tricky he can be. But for me, not only in our group, but I'm watching him to be one of the players of the season in the USL Championship.
All right, here's your Charleston Battery question. I know that our eyes are drawn to guys like Zico Lewis. What else do we need to know?
Well, for the Battery, I think one of the biggest things is they're starting a new chapter. They've got a new home at Patriots Point. Everybody is looking forward to being down there. It's absolutely picturesque with the big bridge in the background. The surface looks great. The new stand is coming in. It's all so exciting. So I think the players are just going to relish being down there and being a part of this new beginning for the team. And then for the Battery as well, you know, the team that has been to the playoffs the longest streak, the only team to have made the playoffs every year, 11 new signings this season. And I think it's important to note with that, there's been some names that, you know, have just departed that we're looking to see who will fill those roles. Joe Kuzminski, for example, and Phil Brino steps into that role. And then Harbrine and Unger in the midfield. I'll be looking for Robbie Crawford this year, the former Rangers player. He'll be looking to pull the strings in the middle of the park. But then again, for the Charleston Battery, I think it's always important to note the veteran players. You know, the league has changed so much over the years, but every single season it's the Jared Van Shakes of the team that have always been one of those consistent, you know, everybody says in Charleston he's a Swiss Army knife, and he really does have that versatility to play all over, fantastic on set pieces, a real engine. And then, as you mentioned, the one to watch, Zico Lewis, the Bermudan international. He's absolutely brilliant from set pieces. He's so fast at top. He puts in so many miles every single game. He's an absolute nightmare to defend. I think he has 15 goals, over the dead ball in the last 3 seasons. So on and off the ball, he really is a menace up top. So we'll definitely be watching him. And then for me, one to keep your eye on this season, it's got to be McHugh Daly, the Jamaican youngster. We didn't really get to see too much of him last year, but he just has lightning speed up top, and he really is going to be tricky. And I think the biggest question for him is, can he get into that form? Can he pick up his rhythm? And how will we see him play with the likes of Zico Lewis? So they're my few to keep your eye on.
And we know that Miami FC has thrown a lot of money at bringing in quality players because they wanted to make a splash in year 1 in USL Championship. Tampa Bay's added Forrest Lasso to the backline. We know what Coach Collins likes to do in Tampa. For Atlanta United 2, it's the continued growth of all of the younger players. Jackson Conway is a year older. Amir Bashti is going to be getting more reps. You're going to have veterans like Bradley Camden-Feo, who's going to be a part of it. Mo Jadama is going to be a part of it this year as well. Ben Lundgaard, and I think that having quality goalkeeping, especially out of the blocks, for sides that are just hopping back into things. I think that having quality keepers is going to be big, and having a guy like Lundgaard is going to be big for Atlanta United too. And also the announcement of the signing of super draft pick Patrick Nielsen from Michigan State. So you're going to have someone else helping out at the back line, center back with Patrick Nielsen. So it's going to be a fun one for Glassy and Atlanta United, too, coming into this sprint that is going to be the USL Championship season in 2020. Now, the question I was saving for the end of this is, with all of these sides that are the second teams, Atlanta United, Red Bulls, Philadelphia, Loudoun, Sporting, and that's just, here in the East. We don't know right now, because of all of the teams that are going to be in the bubble, at least early on in Orlando, what these rosters are going to look like. And I think that what this will do is give academy players an opportunity to shine early on in the competition.
Definitely, and these teams are always bringing in fresh, young talent, and I think one of the problems with that is that it's an ever-changing lineup. Every single week there's players coming in, players moving out, and although you tend to have those couple of veterans on the side that are really the stabilizers in the squad, I think this really gives an opportunity for those youngsters to come in and to get consistent minutes, and we'll see how that pans out. Like you said, it's still TBD on a lot of rosters, but for the two teams, my biggest thing for them is they're always so energized. They're young, they're fresh. Yes, they make mistakes, but at the same time, they're playing for those contracts. Every game is a must-win for them. But can they stand up to the experience that some of the teams, like the Charleston Batteries, like the Pittsburgh in the league have? But, on the other hand of that, they're fast, they're young, they're quick and agile. So I think it's always that battle between the two. But for this season in particular, it would be interesting to see that door and to see if it's, ever revolving like we've seen in the past, or if we get to see a few more mainstays in the squad.
All right, we're getting geared up for the USL Championship coming up on the 11th as things kick off. I know that as we get closer, we'll take deeper dives into Charleston Battery, because we've done with Battery Weekly over the last handful of seasons. For those that want to keep an eye on you and keep an eye on everything going on in Charleston, how do they do it? Time for the blatant plug.
So we are on Twitter at Chaz_Battery and on Instagram at Charleston Battery. I'm on Twitter _Poppy Miller and on Instagram at Poppy Miller 3.
And as the championship season continues to wind itself down, the big sprint chasing after that fourth playoff spot, we'll be talking about that as well. Poppy, it's great to catch up with you and knowing that games are going to be just around the corner. Thanks for hanging out with us for a 1v1 when it comes to USL Championship previewing the new look.
Thanks so much, John. It's brilliant to be back.